There we go. Okay. Audio is now on. Jeez, that would have been exciting. That'd have been better than last time. This is a second attempt at doing this stream. It had been long enough since I did OBS with YouTube that the last 45-minute session was streamed into DevNull, aka the nothingness. All right, so excellent connection, minute and a half. All right, so this is impromptu, but so in this stream we are going to be covering the new track pillar update that I just uploaded to Colts. This is basically all the changes since the original release that have happened to the pillar system. That includes some new locations to clip together the track pillars. It includes some new pillar cap changes. It includes some new bases. And I'm going to show you how to basically set up and slice all of that stuff, at least the settings that I like, to basically make this as printable and nice as possible. So first up on our global settings, I'm going to do all this through Bamboo Studio. If you have a slicer of choice, we are doing this live. This is live, so if you comment, for some reason you see this after the fact, if you leave a comment, we can do this again with a different slicer, but I'm going to be doing it with Bamboo Studio. It's going to be very similar for Orca Slicer and some of the other slicers that are clones of all of the above. But first off, I'm going to set all my wall widths to 0.5. We are using a 0.4 nozzle, but we're going to be basically extruding a little wider just to make sure everything is consistent. We are going to be slicing at a 0.2 layer height. All the other settings should be fine. We are using classic. We're going to go to strength. By default, we're going to have it set to 2 walls. By default, we're going to have a 15% lightning infill. Okay. We are going to go into, the pillars don't use it, but the others do. We're going to go into support. We're going to enable it, but it's going to be tree manual. So only places that we paint on the model will receive the supports. You can play with this other setting. We will leave on build plate only unchecked. We're going to go down here and we're going to change the branch angle of those supports to, let's go down to 20. Let's go down to 20 and we're going to change the branch diameter. So this is the thickness that it starts with on the bottom. We're going to change that to 4 millimeters. So our bases will be a little thicker and they'll be a little straighter. Okay. So with those out of the way, we can go ahead. Oh, and you know what? One other global setting. Let's make sure that our shell layers, we have 5 top layers and we're going to have 5 bottom layers. Okay. So with these settings, and we slice this guy, we should not get any supports to show up. I'm going to go over here and show line type. So no supports are showing up. When you look inside here, we see we have 2 walls. Each of those walls should be 0.5 thick, which added together means this is a 1 millimeter shell. So the shell thickness is 1 millimeter. Because we chose infill type of lightning, it's going to be mostly hollow. And up here at the top, we will have the lightning sort of coming together to give support for our top layers. And you could honestly print this right now, but we're going to go in and add some extra details to each of the pillars. So for this 9-inch pillar, you can see that the seam has been drawn on the places where we're actually going to be trying to join together our clips, our pillars with the clips. So we're going to go back here and we're going to paint the seam. We're going to paint the seam right there, and we can just give the slicer options really. So we're going to just paint on either side here, and then spin this guy around, and we're going to paint here, 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 here. Now you can do this a lot neater. Like I said, I just spent 45 minutes doing this stream to nowhere, so we're just going to do it like this. And we're going to slice. And now we can see our seam is not interacting with this section here. So this model intentionally has this one layer thick flat spot. So this is called a false floor. And it's a way to sort of make the slicer behave a certain way on the layers just above it. So this false floor will be bridged across by the tool head. Let me get this so I can look at it again. And what ends up happening is this floor will get here, and then there won't be any supports needed for the layers above it. So the slicer's coming through here. It gets to this spot, and this is a very thin bridge. Anybody's printer should be able to bridge this, and then the rest of the model gets drawn on normally. So we have this guy here. Our seam is on either side, and the slicer has elected to draw the seam right down the middle here. That's completely fine. The one thing that we can change here is on these pillars is down here at the bottom. These are all just sort of some plastic that's being laid down, and that doesn't really have any good bracing. And this bottom part is a spot where you might want this to be a little thicker, like as far as having more plastic down here supporting these parts that are just kind of in the air. So what we're going to do is we're going to add a modifier, and we're going to add a modifier cube. This is going to warn us that we're switching to per model settings, which is completely fine. So we're in our object settings here, and we're in the cube. And so this cube, anywhere we put this, we can change the settings that we just set up sort of globally. And so what we're going to do is we're going to scale this cube to be bigger. And then I'm going to position the cube so that it is sort of right there. We can look from the top, get it right there. I'm going to go ahead and scale it down. You don't have to scale it down, but I'm going to scale it down. And then I'm going to shift this down so that it captures basically the top part just above that guy. Because some of the stress points on this model are around the connection points. So that'll be this this bottom part here, and then this zip tie location for interfacing with the old pillars. And what we can do is on this modifier, we're not scaling it now, so we'll select it, and we're going to go in here, and we're going to go to strength, and we're going to change that lightning. So instead of following the lightning algorithm for here, we're going to change this to be the crosshatch, and we're going to change this down to like 5. So what that's going to do, and once we slice it, is it's going to make it so that this bottom section is going to have sort of the extra little bit of support. It's not much, but you get some support down here from the crosshatch going back and forth. And then it's going to be essentially hollow until the lightning comes into play up here at the top. Okay. So that is really all we need to do on this guy. We could do a brim if you want. You can definitely do brims on these. That does help. Some of the settings that I found for brim to be really useful, I'm going to go back to global. And if you do enable the brim, I would do brim outer only. And these some slicers don't set this object gap to 0.1, but this generally comes off really well. And the 5 is fine. So if you did do a brim, you can have it just like that. And this comes off clean. It's not really a big deal. And you can give yourself a little more assurance that the corners aren't going to lift up and potentially pop off your build plate. Okay, so that is how to set up and slice a pillar. Let's see. So we're going to go on to the next item. See if this gave me, yep, okay. So the next step is the pillar caps. So I'm going to pick this first cap, And if you're not familiar, the caps go on top of the pillar, and then you'll use a pillar clip to basically lock this in place. On top, you can also use 3mm screws. That was actually the original thought, was that you would just use screws and you could slide them in and tighten them down. But the clips are, if you get a lot of pillars, you have to have a lot of screws, and then it can be kind of tedious. So I made the pillar clips to make it so that you could just stick these on there, and it's all 3D printed. So for this guy, we are going to stand him on his end. We are going to paint the seam like this. We don't want the seam to interface with this part up here, so we're going to draw on this side as well. And we'll go and draw down here as well. So that way the tool head knows not to start or stop on these little arches down here to mess up our seam painting. There are a couple little overhangs down here, so we're going to go into our painting supports tool. We're going to change it to the bucket, and then we're going to change this to overhangs only, and nothing's highlighted right now, so we're going to basically move this slider, and you can see now it has the overhangs that are outstanding. So we're going to fill those two spots. We're going to come out of this, and because we did this at the global level for our support settings, we can go ahead and slice this guy, and we can see that it drew our supports, or it put our supports down here. This came down, comes up and supports it, and it gives it just enough support so that this goes up cleanly. This is really hollow, so we can actually go in to this, and we can change our infill type. That's on the strength. We're going to change our infill type to crosshatch. That's just my favorite. You can change it to whatever you like. And I'm going to change this to 5% crosshatch. Okay. So that's going to give us a little more density there. Just a little support internally. And that cap is good. Okay. So there are multiple of these caps. I'm not going to go through all of them, but I can go ahead and import them if you'd like to see that. So we got these guys. Geometry. Okay, so you can see we got all these different cap types. All of them, you're going to basically be doing the same thing. You're going to be laying them on, standing them straight up. And then you're going to be drawing the seams. I guess I am doing them. We're doing all of them. And then you're going to paint the overhangs down there, just underneath the connector. And we go and do it on the other one. Seams. And then support. Like that. Paint that. Paint that. And then this guy. Seams. And back to support type. Highlight that area, paint that guy, paint that guy. Okay, so these are the 4 different caps that we have. Go ahead and slice that. And I didn't make these others not hollow, so they're all going to use lightning infill. So we can go ahead and change those. Strength, lightning, crosshatch, 5, next one, 5, crosshatch, next one, 5, crosshatch. Okay. So now these are all supported. And they have the right density. And we scroll through there, we can see. Okay. So we got 4 pillar caps ready to go. And we can move on to our next piece. Next piece, I think we'll do a base. So here we have a pillar 3-inch base. This is a new addition to the pillar listing. And this base differs from the previous in that you can actually clip the pillar to it to make it more secure on the base. And the base is hollowed out, so you can actually fill this with some sort of ballast weight. Like, so sometimes I fill mine with marbles. You can fill it with aquarium gravel. You can fill it with rocks. You can fill it with sand if you're going outside, or sandbags if you're inside. But this gives a nice support, a very, very sturdy support and nice flat bottom and clean interface to connect it. The old ones you had to kind of zip tie it and it was kind of a little precarious. But for this, so we're going to draw our seam. Same thing, we don't want the seam here. And then we can go ahead and let's just put the seam. We don't want the seam necessarily on the edge. I mean, we can, it's not that big of a deal, but I'm just going to do it on this corner. And then for supports, so notice inside here there's a lot of, open space, right? So we're going to do overhangs only. We are going to move this over until this lights up. We are not going to do the fill. We are going to draw, and we're going to make this a little bit bigger too. We're actually going to draw 3 distinct lines under here that we want support for. And we don't want to just do the whole thing, because if you do the whole thing and you print this, it's going to fill it all the way full with supports, and they're almost impossible to get out. And we want something that weighs more than just plastic to be in there. So you can kind of play with this, but I'm just going to do 3 for this this video. We can go back to our individual settings. Actually, you can leave this with lightning infill. That's fine. We'll show how this looks. So we're going to slice this. Okay. And so with our slicer settings, we have 3 sort of tree structures inside there. Those will be easy to break away. You can see all the blue, that's where we would be bridging across. And now we have the support structure in place. If we scroll down here on our layers, you can see the lightning infill taking over. It really doesn't hurt to make this have some other type of infill, because it's really not that big of a space. So let's just go ahead, and we're on our objects. We're going to make this crosshatch at, say, 5%. We'll slice that one more time. Okay, so this base, that's a little more structure in there. It is the bottom piece on all the track pillars. So I think this is definitely a good way to have this guy set up. This would print nicely. None of our guys here have the seam, so I think that's looking good. Okay, so what about the large base? The large base is the second new addition. This is a large base, a 9-inch. And so this incorporates a 9-inch pillar with the large base with a cavity to fill with stuff. So same thing here. We're going to come in with our seams, and we're going to say we want seams to be on either this side, this side, this side, or this side. Down here at the bottom, we don't want the seam over here, so I am going to go ahead and draw, maybe I'll just do it up the front side here. I'm just going to draw a seam up this side right here. You know what? I'm actually going to. So if you hold Shift, you can delete that. I think I will just do it on the side though. Let me do that real quick. Here. So I'm just gonna erase all. I'm gonna do it just up here, 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 and then when it gets there, I just don't want it to be over that, so I'm gonna go right there like that. That's probably better. And then for support, we do have some extra ridges down here underneath. So I'm going to get those to be highlighted so we can see that there. I will fill just the side. Okay, so that's going to get the whole bottom section. And then for this, I am going to just draw, we need to make sure we support this. Okay. And then from that, I'm just going to come back here. And then I'm going to go right here. And I'm going to go right here. Okay. So that's got our supports inside. We have our seams painted. For this one, I will go ahead and update the strength to also do the crosshatch. Again, you could do the adaptive cubic or something like that, but I'm going to do crosshatch at 3, just so that it's got a little bit of extra support in there. Let me slice this guy. That's looking pretty good inside there. Not too many trees to break away. And our slicer has given us good seams that are not interacting with our clip location. So this would be good. I think this would print well. That looks good. That's nice and thick. All right. So that's our 9-inch base. Now we're going to go for the clip. So the pillar clip is a little guy. It's this. And the correct orientation to print this is going to be on its back. We want to make sure the seams are not in this inside rim at all, because the tolerances are pretty tight. And if you put it in there, it can be really hard to get on to the pillars. And then if it's really tough to get on, you kind of have to destroy it to get it off. If you do it just right, you'll be able to pop those out with some little tool that you can use. So for this, I'm going to draw the seam on the back side, on both back sides. Okay. And then there's no supports here, but we want this to only be, and we're on object type, we want this to be one wall, and we want this guy to have 0% infill. And we want that, we want the top and bottom layers to be much less on this guy. So I want to do this down to 3 and 3. So we want this little guy to be pretty flexible in what he's doing. So I'm going to slice it. We don't necessarily need the brim. It can make for a lot of cleanup because you're not just going to print one of these. You're going to print like, probably 10 or 100 of these at a time. But let's just take a peek in here. So you can see it's mostly hollow, which is what we want. We want it to be a little bit flexible while we stick it on there. And our seam is on the outside of everything. So the seam is not internal. It's not interacting with any of that. And this would likely print well. So let's go ahead and go back to here. And for this one, we'll turn the brim off. You just want to make sure you have some good bed adhesion so that it doesn't pop off. But little objects are kind of annoying to clean up with the brim. But I am going to clone this, and let's just do like 20 of these. Okay, so now we got 20, but because we set that original one up before we cloned it, these 20 will all have those settings. And so these should all be very, very similar. And they should all print really well. Okay. And so again, these guys go into this spot and connect all of our stuff together. All right, so what else do we have in this listing? Let's add a new plate. So we have our caps. We just did all those. Oh, the tilt. This is also a new piece to the track pillar listing. So the tilt cap is a piece that allows you to basically perfectly match the angle of the track open turn. And so this will allow you to clip one of these onto here, and then this goes onto a base. And so you can basically fix that entry point you can fix the entry of the turn at an angle with a track pillar. So to do this guy, we're going to just make sure again our seams are not interacting with where the clip location is. So I'm just going to put a seam over here. I'll put a seam back here. For this spot, that should get on this side. For this side, I'm going to go back here and maybe right here. It can be kind of hard to get this guy to behave, but I think that should get it there. We don't need supports for this one. And for this one, we don't necessarily, oh boy, that was zoomed in. We don't need the lightning. We can actually go to our crosshatch again. I mean, honestly, the crosshatch should have probably been the default. You could probably make that the default. So we'll slice this guy. Okay, so that's looking good. Come down through here. But notice in the listing, there's actually only one of these. And so if you have a turn that's going the other way, because the pillars are all directional, you would actually use this same piece. So if you look at this, if I clone this just once, and then if I just rotate this, so you'll notice, say you're going through a 180-degree turn, right? You would just need two of this way as long as you were coming in this way and coming out this way. So you're going in, it's descending, you come out, it's descending, or if it was flat, because the pillars are directional, which is maybe not necessarily the best thing, but I might be addressing that in the future update. So let's say you have a turn that you want to go the other way. So this is not going to match the angle coming in, so you will actually need to come into here and you will need to mirror this. And you can mirror it, I'm just going to mirror it along the x-axis. So now, if your entry is going to if your turn is descending and going clockwise, you're going this way. If it's the other way, you have this. So you'd print two of this other pillar to go the other way. So if I clone that again, just to better illustrate this, because sometimes just explaining it can take a couple tries to understand. And then I'll clone this one, which was already mirrored. And I'll rotate it just to show. Okay. So now hopefully you can kind of visualize if you have a turn that's going to the right or clockwise, you would use this type of pillar, tilt cap. If you were doing the other one, you would be using this tilt cap because of the directional nature of the track pillars. Okay, so if you had two turns that are going different ways, you would use this setup here. And those would be sliced appropriately. Okay, so let's look at our listing one more time. So we have our caps, our tilt cap, another cap, a flat cap. We have the medium pillar. We have the 3-inch base, the large base. This is a carryover from the previous listing. This is good if you don't want to have to clip anything. You can actually just slide something in. These are still really handy, and I like to use these sometimes when I don't want these, or if I want to have some other type of support. And we just went over the clip. Oh, the turn support. So we can go over this. This is the support that you would clip onto a turn. And it's a little different than these others, but essentially the same thing. So you can print this flat. It is oriented so that it can print that way. But I typically set these up on their end just like the others. And we'll do the seam real quick on the back side here. So we got our seam, and then I'm going to do the overhang with a fill on just this, that guy. And this is not necessarily needed, but it does give you extra support because this bottom layer is really thin. And so this can help sort of stand this guy up when it's printing over here, so it doesn't basically knock the whole thing over. And on this, we can also go in and set the strength to crosshatch 5. Slice it. Okay. And so that's kind of cradling that. That's fine. If this presses down, it's going to be catching it there. And it's solid. And again, this is the turn support. So on the turns, on the back side of the turns, you have locations where you can put essentially the little track clips to clip them together, or you can use a zip tie, and you can actually zip tie the turn to this part here, and then you latch this down onto a pillar with these guys. So you can support a turn very well now with the new track support update for 2025. Right, so stream's looking good. I think we actually recorded it this time. Like I said, I did this earlier this morning, and YouTube changed enough that I could not get it to work, and I ended up streaming. I thought I was streaming for 45 minutes, and it went somewhere else, and that was kind of depressing. It was not saved anywhere, which is fine. So, do we have any other listings here? You can see we got some tall pillars. These don't fit on a Bamboo Labs. 9 inches and lower is what fits on Bamboo Lab printers. So yeah, so we got all our pillars here, and I really have nothing else to show, and nobody's on joining the live, so I will end it here. So thank you so much for watching, if you watched it this far. Again, this is the track support pillar. I'm going to actually show you. Let's see, let's go to Colts 3D, and we will go to C irons. And while I'm finding this, okay, so this is the listing we were talking about. This is on Colts 3D, track support pillars for diecast racing. If you look in the files, there is a 2025 update, and that has all of the things that we just went over, how to slice. There's also a text document. That text document goes into sort of the details I just showed, but it shows it, you can just read it and consume it however you want, but it goes over all those settings that I just went over. All right. So thanks again for watching. Oh, somebody just joined. I was just wrapping this up. One concurrent viewer. Hello. I was just ending this live stream and saw that somebody joined. So I don't know if you're hearing this. But I am going to exit this out. All right. So thank you for watching.